Protoss from Evil Genius's Team Liquid being sent out as the ace player. His name is JYP.
His opponent spawning as Red Terran on the top left-hand corner. His teammate Rain fell to Jaedong Oz earlier today, but all he has to do is win this game and make sure SK Telecom T1 gets the win. His name is Fantasy.
And in Starcraft2, I believe, not sure which one of those is who.
JYP does lead against Fantasy 1-0. Their last match was back in round number 2 in Tombed Valley.
So, Bak Jin-young.
Yes.
Is the Korean name.
Also the name of the famous Korean producer, the owner of JYP Entertainment.
Yeah, I always forget that. But yeah,
I think EG's JYP, you know, kind of carry that because they have the same name. So it's like, you know what, I could go for JYP and, you know, make the initials and make it sound cool.
Well, I think he did a good job with that. If you're a Korean anyway, you get it. But to the foreigners, it's like, well, it sounds like his initials or something.
Yeah, well, it kind of fits. It's like JYP. It sounds good.
Yeah, it's a cool name. It's like MC.
Now, there is a scouting probe going towards the left side, but it's going to get denied right away because there is a complete wall on the left side. So, if you spawn in the 5 o'clock and the 11 o'clock, excuse me, then just got to go around a little bit. And actually, the probe gets through the top side, so it's not going to get denied. Instead, he's going to get a full scouting inside his opponent's base.
No blocking for Fantasy.
That was my little mistake. Excuse me.
Well, the probe is moving across the map, so it could change directions. All right, this SCV going to try to scare away this probe, but the probe just for now is going to be annoying. It can't really see anything too useful. Does spot the gas, though, so I guess that's one little token of information that JYP can take back home. And he's already building a Zealot right now. Core going up behind this. We have double gas.
Yeah, I'm just interested to see what JYP is going to go for in this game. Because he made a Zealot so fast, and the core went up slightly delayed, I have to say.
Yeah, it did.
Because usually when the gateway finishes, you put down the Cybernetics core and then the Zealot.
Yeah, you
do.
But
this time, he just wanted to squeeze out the Zealot to make sure that he could do some harassment early in the game, it feels like.
I think JYP is looking for some type of proxy. He's expecting... I think both players are actually expecting something weird or fishy.
And now with JYP scouting inside the main base, he's just going to double confirm that there is a reactor inside the main base. There is a proxy pylon over there, which I don't know what it's going to be used for just yet.
All right, Fantasy getting his command center down is natural. Mothership core on the way for JYP. It looks like JYP is going to go ahead and take his natural expansion as well behind this. Probe has been finally picked off. Zealot now moving across the map. It's going to have to deal with those extra Marines, though, so... JYP may be able to kill a Marine or two here, but he will end up losing that Zealot.
Yeah, and he's playing with fire right now as 2 additional Marines just finish in time against Zealot.
Nice macro by JYP, bringing that Zealot back just before it gets kind of trapped in there from that SCV.
I like what JYP is doing over here. There is a SCV inside the main base of Fantasy, and yes, Fantasy finally scouted the expansion over there. But he still doesn't know where the extra pylon is. He sees 2 inside the main base. The third one is outside of the map. JYP is pretty much faking it out right now, saying, I have a proxy Stargate somewhere on the map, so you better be careful.
Yeah, he is making it look like he does have some type of proxy play going on here. And that's actually really cool when Protoss players do stuff like that. You know, just trying to, you know, fake out your opponent. We have the Robo behind it from JYP. So he's going for a very standard opening here. A fast starport from Fantasy here, so he wants to do some drop aggression pretty early on. And with these rocks here, it's going to be pretty easy to tech up safely and not have to worry too much about a timing push.
Now we do have a tech lab behind us, so it seems like he's going to go for... He's making siege tank. He's going to try to hit a nice Marine siege tank timing. There is a Mothership core going inside the main base. It is going to scout the command center timing, but it's not going to scout the factory in time.
Yeah, the factory will not be seen there by this Mothership core for now. We have an observer on the way as well as a forge, so JYP is going to be playing it pretty greedy.
He's playing it pretty greedy, but once he sees the tanks, he's going to be fine against it as long as he gets enough Immortals out.
Yeah, he's going to need to make some Immortals if he wants to deal with this tank. I mean, there's other units that can help out as well, but the Immortals are pretty much the #1 unit to stop tanks.
Yeah, I mean, it's like people are like saying, yeah, mech needs to get stronger. They don't have the upgrades for the siege mode anymore. But Immortals still counter the tanks because of, you know, the unit design.
Yeah.
And he does see the Tyclop next to the factory. He doesn't see the starport and the factory being swapped out. So he knows that he should know by now that there is a siege tank out on the way from Fantasy.
Oh, this SCV getting a great scout there. Cannons is going down in both mineral lines. Robotics Bay on the way for Fantasy as well.
This is great.
Yeah.
Like you said, JYP is playing a little bit greedy, but he's also playing really safe at this point.
So he's playing solid?
Yes. He's getting the cannons over there, just anticipating some helmet drops, because I don't know where the armory is, but after seeing the factory, he is expecting some kind of, you know, really aggressive play from his opponent, and he wants to make sure that it doesn't really drop inside the main base. There's 2 helmets out on the way, but here comes the first medevac from Fantasy.
Medevac spots the cannon, boosts out of there, going to look for a better location to see. And oh, so smart by JYP, hallucinating an Oracle and sending it across the map here. This is going to freak Fantasy out a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some missile turrets go up in his mineral line. Instead of, maybe he thinks it's a fake.
I mean, he saw the robo inside the main base, so it's kind of hard for him to commit to turrets right now, because he knows that it's going to be a Robotech most likely from his opponent. So it's better for him to drop inside the main base, double check what his opponent is going for, and then build a turret or not, or place some Marines over there.
All right, so a few more gateways being completed by JYP here, and Fantasy doesn't even care about that hallucinated Oracle. He knows it's a fake, not going to worry about that. +1 attack on the way for Fantasy, or excuse me, JYP. He's grabbing his Colossus range as well. Fantasy is just starting his +1 attack. His stim is almost complete here, and he's starting to really power out a lot of units.
Well, there are the Hellbats inside the medevacs, and seems like he's just waiting for offbeat timing as he now goes towards the main base.
Yeah, he's got those Hellbats there. The Hellbats are almost guaranteed to do some type of damage, and there's no units here for JYP to defend against this.
Now the best scenario will be he starts pulling the probes immediately right now, but it seems like he didn't react in time.
Oh, unfortunately going to lose some probes there. And the next cannon goes down as well. That's focus firing on the medevac. Medevac will go down pretty fast here, and then the Hellbats will follow.
Only 7 probes have been killed, which wasn't devastating at all, but the problem is Hellbats never stop.
Yeah.
Here's the second wave.
When it comes to Hellbats, when it rains, it pours.
Yes. JYP has a really nice reaction timing today, pulling all those probes over there. You know, the first one wasn't as good, but he did save a lot. The second one didn't do as much.
Yeah. Ooh, another drop spotted. This is actually really good for JYP. It's going to force Fantasy away, more on the defensive. He's adding on a lot more barracks now. You know, he's continuing the macro up, getting a second engineering bay, going into the Viking tech as well.
But it seems like JYP is gearing for the attack right now, using the 4 pylon that he had earlier in the game. There are Vikings coming out, but there's no critical amount of Vikings just yet for Fantasy.
Now, Fantasy does have that siege tank on the high ground, though. That'll help out a lot against any type of potential attack. I don't think JYP is going to go for attack. It would probably be smarter for him to just harass his opponent. That's what he's doing right here. And
it's better to scare his opponent a little bit and maybe catch some units off guard with nice voice fields and the Colossus, but committing to an attack over here is not going to be possible.
Yeah. I like this, though. JYP just poking and prodding because he knows he can get away with it. And look at that, actually making Fantasy cancel that barracks. That's going to delay his production a little bit.
And behind us, since Fantasy is stuck back at his main base, JYP is taking a relatively easy third at the 4 o'clock position, but Hellbat dropping inside the main base once again.
All right, JYP with some solid reaction this time, and ooh, very close, running away those probes just before they can get in range there. And look at that, taking out the medevac, not really losing any units here. And gotta say, JYP's control this game, not bad.
He is losing a lot of mining time, but for the Hellbats that just drop at the mineral line, he didn't take any damage, which is what's really important. And also, Fantasy couldn't save the Hellbats.
Yeah, that's true. Killing off the medevac first, very smart decision from JYP. And Fantasy, he's got his 3rd base completed. JYP's 3rd base is going to complete momentarily. He's going into the Templar tech. He's going to get the Storm. He's going for +2 armor. Blink about 3/4 stun as well. Behind this, Fantasy is getting the +1 armor and the +1 ship attack.
At this point, he needs a Stella Blink Micro. The Stalkers are over there trying to harass his opponent, but he also needs to make sure that he doesn't overextend over here. Because that's a lot of fireball, and once those stim, then they're going to chase away the Stalkers. In fact, get every single one of those Stalkers down. And it's really important at this point to save those Stalkers because he needs them against the Vikings in the main army engagement.
Yeah, you can't lose those Stalkers here to, you know, that's some kind of fancy-looking play. He does not want to do that. We got Storm on the way now for JYP. His +2 armor is going to complete pretty soon here. And, you know, he's going to try to do a little bit more harassment. And his blink is not yet completed. That's really risky doing something like this. He could have actually, Fantasy could have stemmed his army and just killed off like half of those Stalkers. Yeah,
well, the reason why he's not committing too much is because he's just trying to fortify that location while depending on the medevac that's on the, that's at the 3 o'clock position right now to do a lot more damage inside JYP's third base.
JYP getting charged right after the blink finishes and also getting a hallucinated War Prism. I like that. That's gonna kind of keep Fantasy in his base for a little bit longer, just messing with his head, you know, throwing out like, hey, I have this, I have the Robotech. It could be real, man. You better respect this War Prism.
And also remember that he might have shown blink over there, but he didn't show any Templars or any Storms.
Oh, too bad that hallucinated War Prism
got revealed.
Yeah, it got revealed. It got picked off there. You know what I just realized? I think the Warp Prisms, will they be faster than the Phoenix if the patch goes through? That is the question here. And, oh, it's like a little bit lag there. Got it fixed up, though.
Yeah, well, even if the game dropped out, we can resume from the replay, even if there was a blackout in the studio.
Yeah, exactly. Modern technology. The technology is there.
Go saying the satellite connection to OGN wasn't that great, so we do apologize for that.
Okay. All right, the 2-2's on the way for Fantasy. +2 attack going to finish here, on the way for JYP. His charge is done, his storm is done, and he's adding on a lot of gateways. Does he have enough units to defend against this attack, though? How many High Templars does he have? That's the real question.
I'm not too sure because he was building a lot of Colossus. He does have up to 3 High Templars, and you know, if he gets a nice storm on the bio ball, then he's gonna win the engagement outright. But at this point, Fantasy, all he's gonna do is pressure his opponent by dropping into the main base.
Yeah. So JYP has got a really good army composition now. He's got up to 4 Colossi, 3 High Templars, and yeah, everything's just looking pretty good for him.
Drop has been spotted, and now he's pulling back some of his army to defend against the medevacs.
Yeah, the medevacs are going to be annoying, but they can be dealt with pretty easily here as long as JYP is in good positioning. And Fantasy is looking for an attack, but I can't see him really, fighting into this.
This is actually smart by JYP. He knows what Fantasy is going to do at this point. Drop inside the main base, get the main army back to the main base, and then crush the third base as soon as JYP moves his army. But JYP, he had the Observer over there on the left bottom corner, so he knew what Fantasy was probably going to go for.
Yeah. All right, so JYP looking to take another expansion, but Fantasy spots that before it can even go up. And we have some Archons being added in here to the mix.
Now this is looking really scary by JYP, but look at this. Fantasy drops inside the main base.
All right, this Nexus Cannon goes down. Oh no, the +2 attack killed off right before it completes there. The Templar Archive is going to fall as well. JYP got a supply lock there, and he suffered a good amount of damage as well.
Yeah, well, he still has a solid army composition, and remember, if there was 2 medevacs that drop in the main base, there's no more 2 medevacs full of units at the main army of Fantasy.
Fantasy is maxed out, though. Let's not forget that. JYP at 190 supply is very close to that maxed out point. We have the Warp Prism in the army. We have some Templars, some Archons, some Colossus, bit of everything here from JYP. Fantasy, though, he's got 8 Ghosts in his army. He's got 10 Vikings, and that should be just enough to deal with this. And oh, nice, pulling forward, going to snipe down that tank, and then go after the Vikings potentially as well. Stalkers blink out in the end there. They're going to be safe.
Yeah, it was kind of hard to go for the Vikings because the Marines and the Marauders arrived, but this just buys enough time for JYP to take a fort base in the 1 o'clock position.
All right, the Templar Archives is being remade. We now have Immortals being added into the mix from JYP's side.
Immortals are actually a nice addition to the army at this point.
Yeah.
You know, the EMPs don't do much to the Immortals, and the Vikings do not get any shot on the Immortals. So it's just a nice mix to have a little bit late towards the game if you're playing PvT.
Yeah, they're actually also used a lot against Terran players now, or excuse me, Protoss players nowadays as well. All right, looks like Fantasy is going to be forced to defend here. JYP moving forward. There's a lot of Ghosts there. Going to get some good storms off. It looks like he's going to be able to scare away the Vikings for now. The positioning is decent for JYP. Another storm goes down. Decent dodging for Fantasy, but not this time around. All the storms being used to take out the Vikings.
Yeah, and that was fantastic. That was fantastic storm usage, but there's also Warp Prism inside the main base. The Medivac arrives in time, but there's a lot of Zealots warping in inside the main base.
That's a lot of, not just Zealots, Charge Lots doing a lot of damage here. Nice storm going down, but Fantasy is able to weather it. And it's just a multi-pronged attack from both sides here.
These Zealots are doing a lot of damage inside the main base. The EMP does go down, and the Zealots are going down one by one, but it's still doing a lot of damage, and it puts Fantasy's focus back at the main base. Additional Zealot warping, that forces Fantasy to pull his main army back.
Yeah, Fantasy is going to have to move back now. JYP very smart, attacking at 2 locations at once here. He's getting that +3 armor. Looks like the +2 attack finished. Fantasy going for +3, +3, +3. And it looks like the Zealots are going to be picked off here eventually, but they were pretty annoying, man.
I have to commend JYP for keeping his composure throughout the whole game, because once you drop inside the main base, that's where you focus, that's where you have fun. And he was also trying to attack at the same time. Now, if you look at the main army composition of JYP right now, he has a couple of Colossus, he has maybe Templars to mix into his army, but he doesn't have any supporting army except like 3 Sentries and 2 Stalkers, which means that if Fantasy got into a nice position and if JYP wasn't paying attention, then he would have lost the 2 Colossus for free in that position.
I think JYP realized that his army was looking a little bit flimsy, so he's added some beef to the army. He's got some more Archons in there now. He's adding more Zealots and Stalkers at this point too. Okay, he's going for the +3 armor, now getting the +2 attack. JYP is behind in upgrades here, and he does not want to attack when Fantasy has that 3-3. That's going to be a pretty big difference in this game.
Well, all he can do right now is either find the timing before the 3-3 finishes, or take an extra expansion towards the top right and fortify it completely.
Yep. And JYP is about even in supply with his opponent. They're both just hovering under 200.
Now, JYP knows that the units are out of position, so he's going to go for the main base once again.
Alright, JYP moving in here. He's going to kill these Destructible Locks very easily, and Fantasy's going to have to move his main army back. We have the Gravitic Thrusters upgrade going down for those Warp Prisms. It's going to allow them to move a lot faster. The Vikings are going to scare away these Colossi, and you know, JYP wants to attack, he wants to get in a good position, but it's going to be really hard for him to do that.
Yeah, well, the Ghosts are in the front, and they're getting shot by the Colossus one by one, which means that the EMPs did not go down on the High Templars.
No, but they did go down on those Archons, bringing them down really low. Nice storm from JYP, and scare away those units. Another 6 storm as well. Those Ghosts, killing a good amount there. Very nice.
And those 2 Templars still have enough energy to go for 2 more storms.
Yeah. Right, good snipes go down. Storm hits.
Gets 2 more Ghosts.
Not bad.
And look at this, warping inside the 5th base of Fantasy. Fantasy does not expect this. So what JYP tried to do throughout this whole game is get his opponent's units out of position just so that he could go for the harassment and annoy Fantasy as much as possible.
Yeah, well, he's certainly doing that now. Going to continue with this trend here. He's got Stalkers ready to snipe any type of Vikings here, but instead he's going to just blink out of there. Not going to try to kill off a Ghost or anything.
So this is a really nice play by JYP. But he also needs to be careful, because one little mistake and his units are going to get caught out of position while he's focusing too much on the harassment. So JYP is doing a fantastic job throughout the whole game so far. He didn't get his Colossus or Archon out of position. The harassment warpins are working almost every single time. In fact, the last 5 Zealots that forced the lift on the command center.
Yeah. Oh, nice job sniping up a few Medivacs there. Fantasy is going to go ahead and retake the space over here, and all these bio units going to get caught out of position and get pretty much donated for free. Will this trigger an attack from JYP?
He could go for it, but it's still tricky at this point because both players have the unit composition that they want. Protoss has the Colossus, High Templars, some Stalkers mixed in, and a lot of Archons and Immortals to back it up. His opponent, Terran player Fantasy, he has the Ghost to counter the AMP, he has the Vikings to counter the Colossus.
Alright, Warp Prism again on the way here. It's going to finish very soon here for JYP. His +3 attack is on its way. He's getting the +1 shield as well. EMP showers go down. And nice storms, though. Hit that tile bar. Oh, my God. JYP needs to go for the attack now because he is in such a solid position after getting those storms down.
Yeah, well, that's still a handful of Medivacs. The Ghosts are still alive and well, so he's going to regroup and then go for the attack. If you look at the supply, maxed out army from JYP to nearly maxed out from Fantasy.
Oh, Storm goes down, actually does a decent amount of damage there.
You know, that wasn't supposed to do any damage because he was trying to cast something before it got taken out.
I like this, though. JYP has got his storms all around the map. He may put them in the Warp Prism as well and
That's
storm.
what he actually needs to do at this point, because, you know, the reason why Parting was so strong in PvT is because he split up the High Templars everywhere, and you didn't know where the storms were coming from.
Yeah. And so both players kind of just dancing in the middle of the map here.
Yeah, so now it's a stalemate once again. There was a nice storm, but it just didn't kill the units. That was the biggest problem, because the Ghosts, even if they're low on HP, if they have the energy, all they need to do is get a nice EMP shower on the main army of Protoss, and they did their job.
Fantasy showing that turret ring there, basically saying, no, you're not going to drop my main base. Sorry, bro. It's not happening.
So now, JYP is going to add in the Dark Shrine. Those Vikings are slightly out of position. Going to blink under them, but the Bio Ball is over there.
The Bio Ball is going to scare away that army. There's still that storm there, though. Multiple storms. Of the 4 High Templar in this army, Fantasy adding in on a lot more command centers to his bases here. And good storms go down, hitting a lot of the Vikings. Can JYP go for this attack? He's killed off a lot of the units now. EMP showers going down, but I don't think it's enough. Where's the Observer, though? There's no Observer to deal with the Ghosts.
Well, he's going to try to ignore the Ghosts and try to go for the main army. A lot of Colossus goes down and the Archons do go down, but that also forces Fantasy to pull back in this engagement.
Yeah, Fantasy kind of won that engagement, but JYP, he can just add in an Observer or two and he should be okay.
Let's put it this way. He won the engagement, but it wasn't a decisive battle.
Also, look at how much money JYP has banked up here compared to Fantasy. That's a ridiculous amount of gold in the bank here.
Because JYP was trying to force an engagement, and sometimes
hold that thought.
Some
we have
over here
on the way. Fantasy is going to try to use some nukes against JYP here.
And that's going to be a positional nukes. It's really nice at this point to just add into the game. He has up to 5 bases. He could take a 6th base really soon at this point. So he has the econ flowing at this point, and all he has to do is get some EMPs down here and there. I would like to see some more Ghost Academies being added on for more nukes, but it seems like JYP is going to attack before the nukes even go down.
He's got the Observer. There's a planetary there. This is not a position that JYP wants to attack into. I feel like the control in the battles, though, JYP is looking like the stronger player and the aggressor.
JYP's been doing fantastic with his micro throughout the whole day. Nice storm on the Ghosts, but it doesn't kill them. That's the problem. He's getting the nice storms, but the Ghosts are still alive and well.
I think he needs to commit to attack and use the storm at the same time here. And War Prism moving into the natural, and
so close.
Nope.
Nice attempt.
Nice attempt, but he's not able to. JYP, you know, he doesn't want to go for an attack yet. He wants to make something happen, though. Colossus is getting a few nice swipes off there. They're going to be pushed away for now.
And there's up to 30 Vikings, but there was only 6 or 7 with the main army over there. I'm just wondering where all the Vikings are at this point.
I would like to see some of those charge lots traded for more Colossi here.
At this point, yes, he has a lot of minerals banked in. So if he goes for the Colossus, and if his opponent goes for the counterattack, he could cancel the Colossus and then warp in like 6 cells at the same time.
And like, you know, there's 17 ghosts there.
Yeah.
They can snipe a lot of these units very fast. So, you know, JYP needs to change his unit composition slightly.
Yeah, but if you also think about it, it's kind of hard to do so at this point, because going for a lot of Colossus, that's a lot of Vikings out. So I do believe the answer is going to be Immortals one point or another, because Immortals, against, you know, adding a few Immortals at this point is not going to be a bad choice. He had the 2 Immortals getting it before. Wouldn't be so bad. It would also not be bad to nuke your own supply depot.
Well, it was a neutral one, actually. Oh, excellent storms go down on the Stalkers and the Vikings there. Another good storm going down. And the Ghosts are going to be able to finish off that Archon pretty easily here. JYP may get caught in the corner. He's got a lot of units hit from that EMP, so not a lot of shields from his army here.
Yeah, but nice blink under the Vikings. Kills 2 of them instantly. Yeah. And also look at this. How did he sneak in the War Prism? He finally did it after so many tries, and the Zulls are inside the main base. This also means that the Vikings landed, and this is timing for JYP to actually attack into the main army.
JYP adding on another, or actually he's adding on 2 Stargates now. I think one of his Nexus is just completed here as well. What do you think the Stargates are for? Do you think he's going to make some Tempest?
I'm not too sure at this point. We're going to have to wait and see. I think he's trying to get some units out to counter some of the Vikings that his opponent has.
Oh, I like this, though. JYP's got 2 War Prisms. He's just going to start harassing everywhere he can.
Now, there is a drop going towards the 1 o'clock position. I don't know how well fortified that is over there. The War Prison gets taken out instantly. And there are a few cannons, but JYP knows about it. And feedback is not enough. So close.
So close. I think one of the medevacs got picked off there, though. And nice cloak from JYP. It's gonna, or excuse me, Fantasy is going to force these units back. It's a lot of Skull Ghosts, man.
Yeah, but the High Templar was hiding over there, and nice storm on the Vikings.
This is still going to force JYP back, though. And, unfortunately, that pylon got picked off there, and that's going to unpower a lot of buildings.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard for him to fortify that position, too, because he is maxed out. He can't warp in the Zals over there, but he's doing a nice job inside the main base, just wrecking havoc on the barracks and the starport.
Doing a lot of damage here. This is going to stifle the production from Fantasy for a while.
And also, remember, he has a Dark Templar mixed into his army.
Yeah. That Dark Templar is going to be really annoying, too. That's going to force scans to be used. Fantasy wants to save the scans for killing off the observers, putting down extra mules. And, you know, Fantasy still's got a pretty solid bank here, but JYP's got a really good bank.
And JYP's doing a nice job getting those units out of position. Now he can finally touch the left bottom base. Nice storm on the Ghost that prevents the Ghost from walking up easily. But that also puts JYP slightly out of position.
Fantasy is losing a lot of army here. JYP's control is really good here. And there's only one Colossus left, but all the Vikings have been taken out. More good storms go down, and these Ghosts are on their last legs, it seems like here.
JYP is doing such a fantastic job. The Warp Prism at multiple locations at once puts Fantasy out of position. And this, I don't know how he can defend against this.
Good EMPs go down, but that's a lot of charge lots, and we're just missing the observers now. That's all I wish we could see here, because you know these drops are really, or these attacks are really annoying from Fantasy.
What are those Vikings doing over there? They should snipe the Colossus instantly before that Colossus can deal a lot of damage to the Marines that Fantasy has right now. Alright, so now JYP getting into position once again. He has some sentries mixed in. The nuke, not going to go down.
Nope, no nuke there. Cannons already made, and the Zealots are going to be able to pick off this expansion. JYP doesn't want to, or excuse me, Fantasy doesn't want to commit to the attack here.
Yeah, but that's only a handful of Zealots, which means that JYP, he can attack into this.
The supplies are now in the advantage of JYP. He is pushing Fantasy back to this base over here. The positioning, though, not so good for JYP anymore. He's going to move back. He's got some storms in the back here. Can the Ghosts do their snipes? Yes, they do. This is going to buy Fantasy a little bit more time. The biggest issue, though, for our Terran player is that his economy is running dry.
Yes, he is, and JYP has been trading efficiently throughout the whole game. You know, when he threw away a lot of Zealots inside the main base of Fantasy.
When it rains, it pours, man.
Oh my god, Terrans and the mules.
The mule is a Terran unit, you are correct.
They are. Now JYP, he's getting into such a position where he doesn't want Fantasy from mining from the left bottom base, but it seems like he's going to go for the attack once again.
JYP attacking from two positions here. This orbital is really annoying, but Fantasy, excellent storm goes down on the Bio Army, and the Ghosts have been pretty much demolished here. JYP pressing forward. I think he may have been able to turn the tide here, and like I said, Fantasy is running out of units here. He doesn't have much left. The supplies now 194 the 107. JYP, is he going to take the win here and defeat SK Telecom without their key players like Tasia and Hero?
He played this game so patiently and well, though. Double Warp Prism put Fantasy out of position. Fantasy, he tried his best to stay in this game, but it was JYP who played a better game in the end, as he just eating away on all of these buildings over here.
Indeed. Now Fantasy, he'll fight tooth and nail till the last breath. That's his style. He doesn't give up until there's nothing left. So let's see how long we'll stay in this game. We have a good potential storm going down here on these last three units there.
But that's a lot of Archons, and Zal is just warping in. He still has a large bank where he can warp in a lot of units. 168 supply to 72 of
GG! JYP taking the ace match and defeating Fantasy, defeating SK Telecom. Wow, I mean, things were not looking good for Evil Genius's Team Liquid pre-match because they only had 4 players at the venue, but it turns out that's all they needed.
You know, I'm surprised that they even got to the ace match initially, because those were only 4 players, so some of the key players were missing from the lineup. So I told myself this is going to be a really hard fight for EG, but Jaedong did his job. Oz did his job.
Oz did more than his job.
Yes, man. And JYP finished Fantasy from SK Telecom T1 to give EGTO the victory 4-3 against SK Telecom T1.
So I guess we know what kind of condition JYP is in. He is in the condition that, hey, I'll be patient and just play a solid game, and win in the end with a nice macro play.
As a Protoss player, you're itching to attack into your opponent. You're like, it's 30 minutes into the game, and it has been a stalemate for 30 minutes, so you want some action to happen. And some players overcommit, but JYP never did that. Instead, he used the Warp Prism to get the units out of position, and a fantastic play by JYP. Fantasy defended really well, but eventually his units were out of position.
Yeah, I mean, really, like, Fantasy, he played good against Zinio, and he played good against Jaedong, but against JYP, you know, JYP was the more patient one. He was able to deal with any kind of drops. They didn't do much damage earlier on in the game, and once it goes to that late game scenario, Terrence can't really drop Protoss as efficient.